A man is facing charges after an 81-year-old man was found in distress inside a public transit service vehicle. Donald McKeen is a resident at the Magnolia long-term care home in Enfield. On June 11th, he was picked up at his daughter's house at about 3 p.m. by East Hants Community Rider, a transit service operated by a nonprofit organization. He was supposed to be taken back to the Magnolia, but he didn't make it there. Kristen Giles is Mr. McKeen's daughter. So can you take me back to the night when you realized your dad hadn't gotten safely to the Magnolia as you originally thought?
Yeah, so he was here for his weekly visit, and he was picked up at 5 to 3. And at 10:30, we got a call from the Magnolia that said that they couldn't find him, that they had thought that he had gone with a family member. And I said, well, yeah, he did, but he was picked up at 3 o'clock. And the fellow said, well, I'm going to have to go look myself. And so we waited a few minutes, and then I called Dad's cottage back at the Magnolia, and they were frantic. I knew there was a problem. So we jumped in the car, and Andrew said, he's my husband, could he still be in the van? I thought, no, that can't be. So we went up the main highway, the 102, right to where the vans are parked. And there was one wheelchair accessible van there. But of course it was 10:30, it was dark, it was terribly lit. So when I looked in, I couldn't see anything. And then Andrew got his cell phone and was looking through the window, and I could see just the top of the empty wheelchair.
What went through your mind?
Well, I knew if the wheelchair was there, that Dad was there. And we tried to break the window. I tried to break the window and couldn't. So Andrew found a rock and he broke the window. And when we found Dad, he was on the floor. And he had been sick and he was pinned between the seats. He does have a pressure sore on his waist, and as soon as I found him, I just put my hand on him and said, Dad, like, you're safe. And he said, he just left me here.
The driver?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea why? What happened?
No, not a clue.
And what did you do at that point?
We called. So right away, I called 911. Andrew called my son because my mother was on her way to the Magnolia. She's 80 with a flashlight to find him. My son picked Mom up, so they were on their way. So we let Jake know that we had found him. He was in the van. And I was on the phone with 911, and something had happened out on the 102. So it took a long time for emergency response to come. And just tried to make him comfortable. And I did take the seats out of the van to try to get him in the recovery position at least. I knew he was awake and he was talking. But then he was so sore. So the emergency response, it was one of the volunteer fire departments. I'm not sure who responded, if it was Enfield or Elmsdale, but they were fantastic. There was one girl in particular, she had a blanket and they got Dad, comfortable in laying properly, and then the ambulance came.
Wow. So what kind of injuries did he suffer?
He has a pressure, so when he fell, he bumped his face. So some of his teeth are broken. He has a very, very sore shoulder because it was kind of pinned behind his back. He has a pressure sore on his knee, and that's from being on the one knee for 7.5 hours.
And it was hot that day?
It was 26. So it was hot, and it was in a locked vehicle with tinted windows. So I can't imagine how hot and how helpless he felt.
How are you feeling?
I feel angry, but it shouldn't have happened. Like, why didn't Why wasn't he missed? Why wasn't he missed at 3 o'clock or 3:30 when he was due back? Why wasn't he missed at supper time? There's a dining, like all the bedrooms are in a circle, and there's a living room and a dining room right in the center. The meals are cooked right on site. So I don't know why somebody didn't say, is Don coming for supper? That would have been, like, somebody must have asked.
What do you want to happen now? What kind of changes do you think should be made?
Well, I think if the procedures were followed, I think there's procedures in place, because when Dad was accepted at the Magnolia, we went through all of this stuff, that they knew his schedule and that there'd be a transition of responsibility when he got back. So if everything had been followed, this wouldn't have happened. He would have still, the driver still would have forgot him, but it would have only been an hour, and that would have made a big difference.
And the driver has been charged.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
The driver has been very, very good to Dad. I believe in my heart it was an accident. I don't think he did it intentionally, but it happened. And it's unfortunate that the Magnolia isn't held as responsible.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
The CBC has contacted the transit service, the nonprofit that runs it, and the long-term care home, and they've not responded to a request for an interview.